The Book of Forgotten Souls, Part 1, the first page. Imagine finding a book that knows your name. A book that writes its own stories. A book that doesn't just tell the past, but pulls you into it. Tonight, we begin the story of Sarah, an ordinary librarian who discovered something she was never meant to find. And now, she may never escape it. The discovery. It all started on a rainy evening. Sarah sat behind her desk, flipping through old records at Hollowbrook Library. The storm outside rattled the windows, casting flickering shadows across the dusty bookshelves. She had worked at this library for years, but tonight, something felt off. As she sorted through the archives, she noticed a draft, a cold breeze from below. Her eyes narrowed. That was strange. The library's basement had been sealed for decades, locked, untouched. But the draft, it was coming from the old iron door at the back of the room. Curious, Sarah grabbed a flashlight and walked toward it. The door handle was freezing to the touch, but it turned easily, almost as if someone wanted her to enter. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The book. Dust filled the air. The room was lined with forgotten bookshelves, their spines cracked with age. Old wooden tables stood covered in cobwebs. But then, something caught her eye. At the very center of the room, beneath a dim hanging light, lay a single book on an old oak pedestal. Unlike the others, this book looked pristine. No dust. No wear. No title. Just a black leather cover with a golden lock, and a strange symbol engraved on the front. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. She reached out and brushed her fingers over the cover. The lock clicked open on its own. She gasped. Slowly, she turned the first page. And that's when the words began to write themselves. The first soul. The ink formed elegant, flowing letters across the page. July 13, 1892, Eleanor Whitmore. A woman forgotten. A secret never told. Before Sarah could even process what she was seeing, the room spun. A force pulled at her, like invisible hands dragging her forward. The air around her rippled. Her vision blurred. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. And then, darkness. Someone else's memories. When Sarah opened her eyes, she was somewhere else. She wasn't in the library anymore. She stood in a candlelit parlor, staring at her own reflection in a gilded mirror. But the face staring back wasn't hers. It was a woman's face. Pale. Tired. Dressed in Victorian-era clothing. Sarah gasped. She lifted her hands. They weren't her hands. They were Eleanor's. Somehow, she was inside Eleanor Whitmore's life. She could feel Eleanor's emotions, her fear, her sadness, her desperation. And then, a whisper. Find it, before it's too late. Sarah spun around. The room was empty. But she wasn't alone. She could feel it. Someone, was watching her. And whatever it was, it didn't want her to leave. To be continued. Sarah had stepped into something far beyond her understanding. A book that writes itself. A curse that binds her to the past. A soul with unfinished business. But this was just the first page. And the deeper she goes, the more of herself she will lose. Will Sarah escape this nightmare? Or will she become just another name in the Book of Forgotten Souls? Bell, like and subscribe for part 2. Speech balloon, comment below. Would you read the book? Or would you burn it? End of part 1.